3 years ago, my friend Walter went into the hospital for a routine procedure. He walked in on a Tuesday morning carrying a small overnight bag and wearing his good shoes. He was home by Thursday, but the man who came home was not quite the man who had walked in. He was slower. He was confused in ways he had not been confused before. He had a new prescription nobody had fully explained to him. And 6 weeks later, he was back in the hospital, this time for something that his doctor quietly told his daughter may have been prevented. Walter did not fall victim to his original condition. He fell victim to the hospital itself. And nobody had warned him that was even possible. My name is Danny. I am 81 years old. I have been inside a hospital as a patient 4 times in the last decade. I have sat beside friends in hospital beds more times than I care to count. And I have watched, with my own eyes, what happens when an older adult enters a medical system that was not entirely designed with them in mind. I have watched sharp people leave confused, independent people leave dependent. People who went in for one thing come out dealing with 3 new things nobody anticipated. I am not here to frighten you away from hospitals. Hospitals save lives every single day. I am here because the difference between a hospital stay that helps you and one that quietly harms you almost always comes down to 5 things that most seniors never know to watch for until it is too late to watch for them. Most of that difference does not begin with the diagnosis. It begins with what happens in the hours and days around it. In this video, I want to walk you through 5 hospital traps that seniors fall into. 5 things that happen inside hospitals that older adults are particularly vulnerable to, and that the medical system does not always do enough to prevent or explain. For each one, I want to tell you what it is, why it happens, and exactly what you or someone who loves you can do to protect against it. This is practical information, the kind that belongs in every older adult's hands before they ever need it. Here is what makes hospitals dangerous for older adults in ways they are not dangerous for younger ones. A hospital is designed to treat a specific problem as efficiently as possible. But an older body is not a single problem. It is a complex, interconnected system where everything affects everything else. A medication that is perfectly safe for a 50-year-old can have serious effects on a 75-year-old. A day of bed rest that is routine for a younger patient can begin a physical decline in an 80-year-old that takes months to reverse. An environment that is manageable for most adults can be deeply disorienting for an older brain under stress. The hospital does not mean to cause harm, but harm can happen quietly, in the gaps between good intentions, if nobody is watching carefully for the specific things that threaten older patients most. The first trap is the one that most people have never even heard of. Before we go further, if you are over 60 or if you love someone who is, please like this video right now. Because what I am about to share is the kind of information that most people only learn after something has already gone wrong. And I want it in your hands before that day comes. Thank you. Let us get into it. Trap 1. Hospital-induced delirium. People who protect themselves in hospitals understand that sudden confusion in an older patient is a medical emergency, not a normal part of getting older or being unwell. My friend Eleanor was 79 when she had her hip replaced. She was sharp as a tack going in, crossword puzzles every morning, read 2 books a week. The night after surgery, her daughter came to visit and found Eleanor convinced she was in a hotel. She was pulling at her IV line and asking for her luggage. The nurses told her daughter it sometimes happened with older patients after anesthesia. They said it would pass. It did pass, after 4 terrifying days. But what her daughter did not know, and what nobody told her, was that what Eleanor experienced had a name. It was called hospital delirium. And it was not just confusion. It was a recognized medical condition that, left unmanaged, significantly increases the risk of long-term cognitive decline, longer hospital stays, and even death in older adults. Eleanor recovered fully. But her daughter told me afterward, if I had known what to watch for, I would have pushed harder on day 1 instead of day 4. Medical researchers have found that hospital delirium affects up to 60% of older adults during a hospital stay and is one of the leading causes of poor outcomes in seniors. Yet it remains widely underdiagnosed and underdiscussed with patients and families. But emotionally, it does something even more frightening. It can look like the beginning of dementia to a family that does not know the difference. Every hour of delirium that goes unrecognized and unmanaged is either just a confusing night or a window during which real and lasting damage can quietly take hold. Before any planned hospital stay, ask the doctor directly, what is the risk of delirium for a patient of this age, and what steps will be taken to prevent it? Bring familiar objects from home, a photograph, a familiar blanket, something that anchors the person to who they are. Make sure hearing aids and glasses are available at all times. And if confusion develops, push. Use the word delirium. Ask for a geriatric specialist. Do not accept "it sometimes happens" as a complete answer. It sometimes happens and it can be actively managed are both true. Make sure you get both. Trap 2. Too many medications at once. People who protect themselves and their loved ones in hospitals keep a complete and current medication list and make sure every doctor treating them has seen it before prescribing anything new. I carry a folded piece of paper in my wallet at all times. On it is every medication I take, the dose, and the doctor who prescribed it. I started doing this after what happened to my neighbor George. George went in for a cardiac procedure and came out with 3 new medications added to the 7 he already took. Nobody sat down with him and reviewed all 10 together. Nobody asked whether any of them might interact badly with each other. His wife noticed within a week that he was dizzy in the mornings and unusually tired. His regular doctor, at a follow-up 6 weeks later, looked at the full list and immediately stopped 2 of the new medications. He told George's wife that one combination in particular should never have been prescribed together for a man of George's age. George had spent 6 weeks feeling quietly terrible and not knowing why. His original problem was treated. The medication problem was entirely preventable. Pharmacologists and geriatric specialists use a term called polypharmacy, the simultaneous use of multiple medications, to describe one of the most significant and under-recognized risks for older adults in hospital settings. The older body processes medications more slowly, which means drugs stay in the system longer and interact in ways they would not in a younger body. But emotionally, what this means is simpler and more frightening. You can go into a hospital being treated for one condition and leave with a medication problem that makes daily life harder in ways that nobody connects back to the hospital stay. Every new prescription added without a full review of everything else already being taken is either a carefully considered medical decision or a quiet gamble with an older person's quality of life. Bring the complete medication list to every hospital visit, every single one. Hand it to every doctor and nurse who comes through the door. Before any new medication is prescribed, ask these exact words. Does this interact with anything I am already taking, and is this dose appropriate for someone my age? Write those questions on a piece of paper and keep it with you. They are your right to ask, and they may be the most important words you say during that entire stay. Trap 3. Being discharged. Too soon. People who protect themselves understand that a hospital's definition of ready to go home and a senior's actual readiness to go home are not always the same thing. My own experience with this was the most frightening thing I have been through in a hospital. I was 77 when I had a procedure on my lower back. I was told I would stay 2 nights. On the morning of the 2nd day, a doctor I had never seen before came in, looked at my chart for approximately 90 seconds, and said I could go home that afternoon. I did not feel ready. I was still unsteady on my feet. I had not yet spoken with a physical therapist. I had not been shown how to manage at home. But I was 81 years old, and I had been raised to trust doctors and not make trouble. So I nodded. I signed the forms. My son came and took me home. 2 days later, I fell in my bathroom. Nothing broke. But it frightened me badly, and when I told my regular doctor what had happened, she was not surprised. She said early discharge was one of the most common problems she saw in older patients. She said I should have pushed back. I did not know I could. Health researchers who study hospital readmission rates have found that premature discharge is one of the leading causes of hospital readmissions in adults over 65, meaning patients who go home before they are truly ready often end up back in the hospital within 30 days, frequently in worse condition than when they first arrived. But emotionally, it means something that the statistics do not capture. Being sent home before you are ready does not feel like freedom. It feels like abandonment. And an older adult alone at home who is not yet stable is not recovering. They are waiting for something to go wrong. You have the right to say you do not feel ready to go home. Those words, "I do not feel ready," are not a complaint. They are medical information. If you are being discharged and something does not feel right, say it clearly to the attending physician, not just the nurse. Ask for a specific explanation of why you are medically safe to leave. Ask what support will be in place at home. Ask for a follow-up appointment before you walk out the door. And if you have a family member or friend who can be present for discharge conversations, bring them. 2 sets of ears catch twice as much. If you are still watching, and I hope you are, because what comes next may be the most important part, please subscribe to this channel. Because I want to keep putting information like this in front of older adults before they need it, rather than after. The next 2 traps are the ones that most people never see coming at all, and one of them I watched happen to someone I loved very much. Trap 4. Losing physical strength in the bed. People who protect themselves in hospitals understand that lying still in a hospital bed is one of the most physically dangerous things an older adult can do, and they move their bodies every single day they are admitted, even if only a little. This is the trap that nobody talks about because it sounds almost absurd. The hospital put you in a bed. Of course, you are lying in it. What else would you do? But here is what I did not know until my doctor told me after my second hospital stay. For every day an older adult spends primarily in a hospital bed, it can take up to a week to recover the muscle strength lost. An 80-year-old who spends 5 days in bed may take 5 weeks or more to get back to where they were physically before they went in. My friend Margaret went into the hospital walking independently and came out needing a walker. She had been admitted for pneumonia, not for anything related to her legs or her balance. But 5 days in bed had taken something from her body that she spent 3 months trying to get back. She got most of it back, but not all of it. And she was angry. Genuinely angry, that nobody had told her this was going to happen, and that there was something she could have done about it. Physiologists and geriatric medicine specialists refer to this as hospital-acquired deconditioning, the rapid loss of physical function that occurs in older adults during hospital stays, even relatively short ones. Studies have found that up to 65% of older adults leave the hospital with lower physical function than when they arrived, independent of whatever condition brought them in. But emotionally, it does something crueler than any statistic describes. It can turn a person who went in walking into a person who goes home afraid to walk. And fear of falling, once it takes hold in an older adult, can become more disabling than the original injury. Ask, on the first day of admission, whether a physical therapist can be involved in your care. Ask what movement is safe, and begin doing it as soon as possible. Sit up in the bed, move your legs, stand at the bedside if you are able. Walk the corridor if you are cleared to do so. Every hour of gentle movement you choose is either just a small effort or an active defense of the physical independence you walked in with. Protect it. Nobody else in that hospital is making it their primary job to protect it for you. Trap 5. Going home. Without a real plan. People who protect themselves understand that what happens in the first 72 hours after leaving the hospital is just as important as anything that happened inside it. The last trap is the one that swallowed Walter whole. He was discharged with a folder of papers, instructions for wound care, a list of medications, a follow-up appointment scheduled for 3 weeks away. 3 weeks. He went home on a Thursday afternoon, and by Saturday morning, he had a question about one of his medications that nobody had answered during discharge. He could not reach his doctor. He did not know which number to call. He made a decision on his own about whether to take the medication that day. It was the wrong decision. Not dangerously wrong, but wrong enough to slow his recovery significantly. The follow-up 3 weeks later revealed complications that his doctor said she would have caught at 1 week if she had seen him then. Walter told me afterward, I left that hospital with papers I did not understand and a phone number that rang through to a voicemail. I had never felt so alone in my life. Research on post-hospitalization care consistently identifies the transition from hospital to home as one of the most dangerous periods in an older adult's medical experience. A window during which miscommunication, medication errors, and lack of follow-up combine to produce outcomes significantly worse than they needed to be. But emotionally, what this means is something every older adult deserves to hear clearly. Leaving the hospital is not the end of the medical event. It is a new phase of it. And that phase needs a plan as careful as anything that happened in the building. Before you leave the hospital, ask these specific questions and write down the answers. Who do I call if something changes or I have a question? Not the main hospital number, a specific name and direct number. What symptoms should make me go back to the emergency room immediately? When exactly is my follow-up appointment, and with whom? Is there a home health nurse or aide who will come to the house? What medications have changed and why? Do not leave without answers to every one of those questions. And if you have someone who can sit with you during the discharge conversation, bring them. The information given at discharge is often given quickly, to a person who is tired and relieved and not at their sharpest. You deserve to leave with a real plan, not a folder of papers and a voicemail. 5 traps, hospital delirium that looks like sudden confusion and gets dismissed as normal. Too many medications prescribed without anyone reviewing the full list. Being sent home before the body is truly ready. Losing physical strength silently in the hospital bed. And going home without a real plan for what comes next. None of these traps require negligence or bad intentions to spring. They happen in the ordinary gaps of a busy medical system that treats older bodies the same way it treats younger ones, and the older body pays the price. The good news, and there is real good news here, is that every single one of these traps can be avoided or significantly reduced with knowledge and with the willingness to ask direct questions and advocate clearly for yourself or the person you love. A hospital is not your enemy, but it is not automatically your protector either. You have to walk in, knowing what to watch for, knowing what to ask, and knowing that your voice in that building matters, because it does. It matters more than you may have been led to believe. You deserve to walk into a hospital and walk back out better than you went in. That is not too much to ask, but sometimes it requires you to ask. I am Danny, and I will see you in the next video.